What prompted the recent Basic Education Lekgotla? Why did SABC march against the shortage of books and other learning material in Limpopo? Will emergency schools solve Gauteng's province's online admission challenges? Who has the power to decide the capacity of public school? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Rosalia White, standing in for Port Sedu. It is almost 3 weeks since public schools reopened for the 2017 academic program. This amid a number of challenges, including learners not yet placed at schools, with 19,000 of them in Gauteng alone. Late or non-delivery of books and other learning materials and an acute shortage of teachers in some parts of the country are aggravating the situation. During the recent Basic Education Lekgotla, President Jacob Zuma indicated that there will be consequences for those schools that registered a 0% pass rate during last year's matric examinations. He also pointed out that government has expanded access to free education with over 9 million children attending no-fee schools. But what will it take to improve the equality or the quality of education at public schools? We are live, therefore you can call us and air your views on the following numbers: 089 110 4210 or 0027 89 110 42, or tweet us your comments. Our handle is @questiontime24. My guests are Mr. Opa Budebe, spokesperson at Gauteng Department of Education, and in Polokwane studio we are joined by Mr. Madome Rapasha, SABC Provincial Secretary in Limpopo. On the line we are joined by Mr. Paul Colders, CEO at the Federation of Governing Bodies of South African Schools. Welcome to my guests. I just want to go to the department first. In your views, so did the whole education fraternity, in reflecting its on the department, did you really get a sense that this is what happened over the last 3 days last week?
Okay, so the Lekgotla is always obviously an opportunity for reflection, but also for planning ahead. And so far as Gauteng we are concerned, we think we've got sufficient direction to take on board the challenges that we are facing, but also the successes that we've made. And we can't obviously rest on our laurels. We have to get on improving in order to ensure that we improve our performance overall.
Mr. Rapasha, did you get a sense that the basic education lived up to its aim of reflecting on the performance of basic education?
I think the leadership of the basic education would have to pull up their socks in order to ensure that there is effective teaching and learning. There are serious problems in Limpopo which will definitely affect the performance of learners negatively if those issues have not actually been resolved. So our view is that it will take too much from the leadership of the Department of Basic Education to realize proper goals if these problems are not attended to.
Mr. Colders, did you get a sense that there was enough reflection during the last few days at the Lekgotla?
Rosalia, unfortunately I could not attend, but I can comment in general, and that is that if the President is referring to underperforming schools, he should actually really put the focus on underperforming provinces in different respects. That is the important starting point. To sum up, my personal experience of what's happened this year is, in my more than 30 years of involvement in education, I've never experienced such a disappointing and even chaotic start of a new school year than 2017.
Mr. Budebe, SABC as well as the school governing body say they were really disappointed in the last few days.
Well, we all have a reason to be optimistic, at least in Gauteng. I can't speak on behalf of any of the Free State or Limpopo. And one reason why we're optimistic is that we've been able to handle all the challenges that have been thrown at us. That the first week of school went ahead with very few glitches, and we're able to start the first day of school without major interruptions. So we are very optimistic about what we've been able to do so far.
There may not have been many, but there were some very important glitches, and that's grade 1 learners that were not all registered online.
Thank you, and obviously we did say we apologize for that to the parents that whose children were not placed on the first day. But remember, we started with 58,000 learners that were not placed. We're now sitting at 2,800 of that number. So we've managed to reduce that number. Obviously, there are some parents that have now walked in through the doors since January. We are sitting at 18,000 of new applications. But even then, we didn't sit on our laurels. We've placed 9,000 of those parents that have walked through the doors since January.
But Mr. Madibe, I'm sure this is not new. Every year we go through the same thing, and so this shouldn't have come to as a surprise for you.
Not entirely, but the extent of the numbers is a problem, especially of the new applications. Because remember, the reason why we started the admission campaigns in April last year was to try to minimize this phenomenon. And what is even worrying is that of the 18,000, only 200 are people that are coming out of the province. So it's many parents that have left it until late to apply. And it's a combination of parents that are applying for grade 1 and grade 8, but also in between grades. So this is something that you can never really anticipate with precision. It does happen, and we want it to minimize, because remember, life circumstances change. Some parents move jobs, some parents find new houses, and so forth and so forth.
Mr. Caldas, I mean, in broad strokes, can you just highlight why you are against the Gauteng department instructing more learners to be admitted at schools?
Well, let me start by putting it into perspective. Gauteng has too few schools. They have neglected to plan properly for the increases, and with all due respect to what Opa is saying, it is predictable. There has been a steady increase in numbers of learners flowing into Gauteng for at least 20 years now, and nothing has been done about it. So you have a shortage of at least 200 schools, and what he's saying is placing. The NEC is actually also publicly stated he's forcing children into schools where those schools are already overcrowded. That is fundamentally the problem. If you compare the situation in Gauteng to the rest of the country, the average size of a school in the rest of the country is about 470. In Gauteng, it is more than 980. That's the average size. Another important thing is, in a province such as, for example, Northern Cape, you have 2.5% of the schools of the country in that province catering for 2.5% of the learners. In Gauteng, it is just over 8% of the schools that must cater for 19% of the total number of learners in the country. That gives you an idea of the distortion that is happening in Gauteng because of lack of planning and because of failure to provide enough schools for the children of the province. I've also read and heard that the NEC is saying they're going to build 12 new schools this year. You can accurately predict that the intake will be an increase of 50,000 more in 2018. And you're building or preparing to build 12 schools over this 2017 year. It means more than 4,000 children per school. That is impossible. You can't work like that, and that is a fundamental problem, and why this situation in Gauteng is actually chaotic.
We have Mbare on the line. Welcome, Mbare. Please go ahead with your question.
Welcome, ma'am, and welcome to the viewers.
Go ahead with your question.
Come again?
Go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay, our comment is very clear, and we also spoke to the spokesperson of education in Gauteng, whereby we said it is not about placing students or the pupils, it's about the quality. And we, as Forum for Service Delivery, we suggested that let us break grade 1 into 2, whereby we've got a morning shift and afternoon shift, so that there can be an individual attention between the students and the teachers. I mean, what's the point of placing 50, 60, 800 students in one class? I mean, it's chaotic. I mean, let the Gauteng accept comments from organizations like Forum for Service Delivery. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mbare. We'll be back after the short break.
If you ask this pretentious mixologist what is needed to make the ultimate cocktail, she'd say a thorough knowledge of science. Ooh, right in the face. Yes. If you asked us, we'd say it's less about science and more about, well, chemistry.
Get a bottle of Cedric's, the original Old Brown, for only $27.99 from Tops at Spar.
Welcome back. You are still watching Question Time. You can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial are 089-110-4210. Mr. Budibe, before we went on break, our caller asked about looking at the quality of education, and especially with grade 1 pupils. Why not divide it into two, where you have a morning class and as well as an afternoon class? Is that feasible?
Thank you for that. And this is not the first time we hear this. But let me just also go back to Mr. Khalid's issues. What we are saying is that you cannot predict how many parents will leave their matters late. So we understand the growth and we are planning to meet the growth. But however, you cannot with precision and with the best planning in the world know that 18,000 parents will apply late. So that's the issue that we're putting across. So just that we are clear about that. The issue of 2 classes for grade 1 or any other time, that's an option we will consider if we absolutely run out of space and we see that the numbers are not manageable. But so far we think we have managed to accommodate all the learners, and we will be able to accommodate all the learners without increasing unreasonably class sizes. So we'll still be able to manage, but there might be areas of pressure where some of these options may have to be considered.
Mr. Budibe, you'll excuse me for this, but I mean, over the last few years, you have seen pupils, the number of pupils increasing. And so increasing classrooms and as well as looking at such considerations, I mean, should be high on your list, you know, so that next year we don't talk about the same issues again. Okay, again, I'd like to emphasize this. Let's separate 2 issues. There's issues about planning and the issues of parents who leave their matters late to apply late. That you can never plan for, you can never predict with precision. But the overall growth in the number of learners, yes. And we are thinking that with the online system, we can even do it with precision because we now have accurate data. We don't have to guess estimate. And that's why we start even the applications far much earlier, and we can now respond to the building of school. But here's the situation, and that's the situation of trying to address imbalances in the system. So we've been building schools, and we've been building schools in townships where there were no schools at all.
But now the new demand is in places where we're not building schools. It's in places such as suburbs where new huge residential complexes have gone up, and the demand for schools has gone up as well. So that's an anticipated challenge, but we will be able to place all the learners. And that's why we also say, in addressing these imbalances, we want to improve schools in the township so that there's no pressure for parents to try to move their children out of the township to travel long distances to town.
Mr. Rapulana, how will this affect teachers if you have 2 classrooms for grade 1? Can you hear me, sir? Okay, we've got Kimi on the line. Kimi, what is your question or comment?
Good day. All I wanted to say is I'm not sure if the Department of Education is doing justice. Sometimes when it's end of the year, we compare these provinces, Polokwane, Eastern Cape, compared to Johannesburg and Western Cape, when the playing field is not level. We have people learning under the trees in these 4 provinces, but at the end we expect for them to compete with provinces like Gauteng. What is Gauteng doing for them to improve Polokwane's provinces so that we don't have this migration of kids from other poor provinces, because they know in Gauteng there is better education. So I think we are disadvantaging the disadvantaged communities from historical background, and I want to know what are they doing to curb that situation. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bidibik, go ahead.
We can't stop anyone from coming to Gauteng, and the reality is that Gauteng still remains the economic dynamo of this country, and people from across the world actually and across Africa flock here, and we have to manage the demand. So we really can't stop anyone from coming to Gauteng. But the bigger point that's been made is that basic education or education must improve overall across the country, and the economic situation must improve overall across the country. But if that's not happening, you can't then stop people from moving here.
Okay, Matume.
Hello?
Hi, Matume. How does SATU feel with regards to having a morning class for both grade 1 and 2, and as well as learners or pupils moving from areas such as Limpopo and coming into Gauteng? How does this affect teachers?
No, though we haven't yet reached that stage in our province, but I think it's got its own implications, because then what do you do with teachers? Will the teachers have to teach in the morning and repeat themselves in the afternoons? It will definitely create some burdens on the teachers. But like we said, that we are speaking on behalf of Limpopo. In our province, we have not yet reached that particular stage. We want to ensure that in our own province, we provide the necessary, proper, effective teaching and learning, so that parents are not actually attracted to go to other provinces. So that is why we have been very emphatical to raise the issues that are concerning our province, so that we are improving, we are able to attract parents to have their learners or children learning in our own province.
Mr. Caldas, how will this affect the student governing,
Governing bodies?
Yes.
The idea of a morning and an afternoon school is not quite the foreign concept. It's called platooning. It's highly undesirable, because you'll have 2 separate schools, each with its own principal, each with its own governing body, each with its own staff establishment, one occupying the school, the buildings and the grounds in the morning and the other in the afternoon. And you can just imagine how undesirable it will be if you have 2 different bodies of schools occupying the same building during the day, because they must share facilities, share water and electricity accounts, and all of that. It's simply highly undesirable, but in extreme emergencies, it can work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Caldas. That will be all for today. On the line we have Michael. Please go ahead with your question or comment.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to say to Mr. Mudibe, he must not lie and say that the online system was good and it was working okay. They forced people to go and register at district offices. Soweto was full of people registering on the so-called successful online, but they were doing it manually, and people had to lose work. The second thing is that is the department respecting the law, because a few schools have taken the department and then they've won, but the department is not implementing such laws. And one example is a school in Rockville called Henley. When are they paying the teachers? When are they giving the children food? When are they giving the school books and stationery? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Mr. Budibe.
I think that statement is wrong. Online application, we did have some problems, but by August, 80% of the people that had applied were placed. And so we had about 358,000 applications on the system. By end of August, 258,000 thereabouts were placed. So when we say success, we mean that. So in relative terms, it was success. Did it have problems? It didn't have. It did have problems. But if you're taking 358 compared to 58,000, 58,000 is not even half of that number. So that's what we mean when we say the online system was a success. But also because of that, we were able to procure stationery, we were able to procure furniture, and we were able to make sure that the right teacher is in front of the right children, because we now know in advance the profile of the learners. Hunle is closed. Can I emphasize that? That school is closed, and those people who are continuing to operate in that school, it's an illegal occupation, and the matter is before the courts. Will not do anything until there's a pronouncement by the court. So those people must just move out and go, and the teachers who've been asked to go to and join a school that was merged with Hunle must do so, because we don't recognize those people, we don't recognize the SGB. Okay,
Madame, the teachers in Limpopo have been on strike for the past week. Have you been able to engage with the department?
No. Firstly, let's correct it. Teachers were not on strike. There was just a protest march on the 26th of January 2017. Let us just indicate that the problems that are prevailing in the province are still prevailing, and unlike in Gauteng, we are very pessimistic that the results will be fine or the provision of education in the province is okay, because there's still a problem of textbooks and stationery not being provided. The department has failed to even meet its own deadline of delivering stationaries by the 26th of January. As we speak, we still have got about 60 to 70% of secondary schools, grade 8 and 9, and other lower grades who have not yet received stationery. As we are speaking, there are about 60 teachers who have not been paid salaries since April 2016 to date. The worst situation for now is that in our schools you've got posts that have not been filled for temporary teachers, contracts which have not been extended. Most of our foreign educators who are assisting us with maths and science subjects, scarce skill subjects, their contracts have not been extended, and we find that some of them are these people who have taken the department to court. So simply because we took the department to court, they have not extended their contracts. Something that we find that is victimization of those who are trying to pursue their rights. Given all these particular issues that teachers have not been paid, stationery has not been delivered to schools, contracts of temporary teachers, vacant posts have not been filled in.
I'm afraid
we are really pessimistic that we can make it towards the end of the year.
Thank you so much for joining us. And that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and for you at home for watching. Thank you.